Okay, study guide for market period 3 exam. What is the simplified form of 5 to the negative third, x to the sixth, and y to the negative 4? So the first thing I'm going to do is highlight the numbers or variables with a negative exponent. That would be 5 to the negative third and y to the negative 4. Both of those had to be moved underneath x to the sixth. So I'll have x to the sixth over 5 to the third and y to the fourth. 5 to the third is 125, so my final answer is x to the sixth over 125 y to the fourth. And that is number 1. Number 2, what is the simplified form of negative 6a to the 0 power b to the negative 6c? So the first thing I notice is that all of this is raised to the 0 power. Anything except for 0 raised to the 0 power is going to be 1. So all of this goes away, and I'm left with b to the negative 6c. I highlight b to the negative 6 because that's going to get moved. So that moves underneath the c, and I'll have c over b to the 6 as my answer. And that is number 2. Number 3. A rectangular pasture has a fence around the perimeter. The length of the fence is 5x to the 7th power, and the width is 23x to the 9th power. What is the area of the pasture? So, area of a rectangle is going to be length times width. Now, our length is 5x to the 7, and width is 23x to the 9. So, substitute those in for L and W, and we see we just multiply them together. So, we'll have 5 times 23, which is 115, x to the 7 times x to the 9, you add exponents, 7 plus 9 is 16. So the area would be 115x to the 16th power, and that is number 3. Okay, number 4. It is asking you what the simplified form of negative 2x to the 4 y to the 3 times 4xy to the negative 2. So first multiply the two coefficients. That's negative 2 times 4. Negative 2 times 4 gives me negative 8. Now I'm going to multiply the x's together, multiply all the same variables. So x to the 4 times x, this is understood to be a 1, even though we don't write it. So it'll be 4 plus 1, which would be x to the 5. Now we multiply y to the third times y to the negative 2. Add the exponents. 3 plus negative 2 gives me 1, or just y. So my answer is going to be, for number 4, negative 8x to the 5th y. That's number 4. Number 5 is asking you which equation represents a line that intersects y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2 at exactly 1 point. For a line to intersect another at exactly 1 point, the slopes have to be different. So, looking at each of these, only one of them has a slope that's different. 2 over 6 and 3 over 9 reduce to 1/3, and they're both negative. So this will be negative 1/3, this will be negative 1/3, and this is negative 1/3. This is a positive 1/3, so these are different, so your answer has to be D. So D is going to be your answer for number 5. Number 6, it says determine which point is the solution to the linear inequality. So what we're going to need to do is substitute each of these points in and see which makes the inequality true. So starting with A, I'm going to substitute in 2 for x and negative 4 for y. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, and 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. So I have negative 6 minus 24 is greater than 12. That gives me negative 30 is greater than 12, which is not true. So A would not be a solution. So let's look at B. So I have negative 2 in for x and negative 4 in for y. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. 6 minus 24 is negative 18. Negative 18 is not greater than 12, so your solution would not be B. C, you have 4 in for x and 3 in for y. So negative 3 times 4 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. Negative 12 plus 18 is 6. 6 is not greater than 12, so C would not be a solution. So let's look at D. Negative 3 times 2, and then 6 times 4. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. 6 times 4 is 24. Negative 6 plus 24 is 18. 18 is greater than 12, so your solution is going to be D for number 6. Now, for number 7, it is asking you which equation represents a line which is parallel to the x-axis. Now, remember, the x-axis is a horizontal line. So, and every single y-coordinate on the x-axis is 0. So y equals 0 for the x-axis. This is the equation of the line, so it's not going to be E. Parallel to it will be another horizontal line. The only other line here that's horizontal is another y equals equation without x, and that would be C. So your solution for number 7 is going to be C. Number 8, it is asking you to solve the system. I'm going to use elimination on this one, but feel free to use substitution should you choose. So what I'm going to do is multiply everything up top by -1. And I'm doing that because I want to make one of these lines positive and the other stay negative. You could have multiplied everything on the bottom by -1, would have given you the same answer at the end. So doing this, I change everything up top. I'll have -8x plus 9y equals -3. At the bottom, I'll just rewrite x minus 9y equals -39. Add these up. -8x plus x is -7x. Y's cancel out. -3 plus -39 is -42. So we have 7x equaling -42. Divide both sides by -7, you'll get x equaling 6. So my x-coordinate is 6. Now we got to find y. So substitute 6 inside for x. We'll have 8 times 6, which is 48, minus 9y equals 3. Subtract both sides by 48, we'll get -9y equals -45. We now divide both sides by -9, and y equals 5. So now my final coordinate is going to be 6, 5. That's the solution. Okay, number 9 should be pretty easy to narrow down. We look at the y-intercept of this line, we see it's 1. That eliminates a from the equation. This is a decreasing line, so it's a negative slope, so my answer is going to automatically be B. And that is my answer for number 9. Okay, number 10. It is asking you which graph best represents the solution to this system of inequalities. So both of these need to be put in slope-intercept form first to graph them. Looking at the first one, we simply subtract x to both sides and we'll get y is greater than -x plus 3. So that's my first inequality. The second one, I have 2x minus y is greater than or equal to 1. Subtract 2x on both sides, you'll get -y is greater than or equal to -2x plus 1. Divide both sides by -1 to make this y positive. I'll have y is less than or equal to positive 2x minus 1. And I switched the direction of the inequality because I divided by a negative. So let's look at the graph. Now I'm going to graph both inequalities on the calculator to show you where their overlapping shaded parts the solution would be. So go to y equals. For the first one will be -x plus 3. And then 2x minus 1. Now I'm purposely using the calculator that most of you will be using. Okay, so now I go back. The 2x plus 1 is a less than or equal to. That means it is pointing down. So I'm going to press enter until it is pointing down. And there it is. Up top is a greater than, so I'm going to press enter until it is pointing up. Now I'm going to press graph. This here is my overlapping portion. So now let's look at my graph. My choices is either going to be A or D. The difference between them is the solid or dashed lines. Now looking at my first inequality I got y is greater than -x plus 3. So that means the decreasing line, -x, should not have a solid line because it is just a greater than -x plus 3. So that means it will have to be D because my decreasing line is dashed here, where on A it is solid and the other one is dashed. So your answer would have to be D for number 10. Number 11, you are being asked to simplify. You just raise each of these to the power. So you'll have negative 3 to the third power, x to the 12th power, 9 to, or y to the 9 power, and z to the 21st power. Negative 3 to the third power is negative 27. So your answer would be negative 27, x to the 12th, y to the 9, and z to the 21. When you raise the exponent to a power, you just multiply. And that's where you get to 12, 9, and 21 from. And that is number 11. Number 12, it is asking you to simplify this. So the first thing we're going to do is rewrite everything. I'm going to write all my constants here, the numbers in front, the 2, the 6, the 2, and the 6, next to each other and multiply them. I'm going to write the x's next to each other and multiply them, and then write the y's next to each other and multiply them. So this is what that looks like. So we have 2 times 6 times 2 times 6, which is 144. Now looking at the x's, I have x to the 2/3 times x to the 1/9. And when I multiply these together, I have to add the exponents. So 2/3 plus 1/9 is 7/9. So we have x to the 7/9. Now I take care of the y's. I have y to the 1/4 times y to the 5/2. I add the 1/4 to the 5/2, and I get 11/4. So my answer for number 12 is going to be 144, x to the 7/9, y to the 11/4. Number 13. Number 13, we have the same bases being multiplied, so we add the exponents. 2x plus 3x is 5x. This is a 1 on here, even though we don't write it. So 1 plus 4 is 5, so my answer should be 3 to the 5x plus 5 for number 13.